Commanders fans, welcome back to Commanders HQ, your home for every piece of burgundy and gold news, insight, and inside scoop. This team is putting in the work every single day to sharpen its edges, get stronger, and push itself toward the kind of results we've been waiting for. And today, we've got a big update. Not just one story, but two headlines that every fan needs to hear about. But before we dive in, let me ask you a favor. Smash that like button right now to support the channel. It really helps us grow our community of die-hard fans. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat of Commanders coverage. All right, let's get right into it. The Washington Commanders finalized their 53-man roster, and while there's plenty of excitement around this team heading into 2025, the news isn't all perfect. One of Jaden Daniels' most trusted protectors, Sam Cosmi, will not be suiting up in Week 1. The team announced that Cosmi has officially been placed on the physically unable to perform list as he continues to recover from the torn ACL he suffered during the 2024 playoffs against the Detroit Lions. Now, this isn't a season-ending situation. The Commanders fully expect Cosmi to return at some point this year, and the word out of Ashburn is that his rehab has been going well. Still, the reality is simple. Jaden Daniels is starting the year without one of his best blockers. And let's be real here. Cosmi's absence is going to be felt. Before his injury, he wasn't just good. He was playing like one of the best guards in the entire league, earning a 74.3 pass blocking grade from Pro Football Focus, ranking 21st among all guards. For an interior lineman, that's elite. Without him, Washington has had to reshuffle. Veteran Nick Allegretti has stepped back into the starting lineup, even though technically he's listed as a backup. Remember, Allegretti was pushed down the depth chart after Washington pulled off the blockbuster trade for Laremy Tunsil, but he's been treated like a starter all through training camp. Alongside him, Michael Dieter and rookie Josh Connerly Jr. have gotten valuable first-team reps. So what does this mean for Week 1? It means the projected offensive line now looks like this: Laremy Tunsil, Nick Allegretti, Tyler Biadasz, Brandon Coleman, and Andrew Wiley. 4 of those 5 were already here in 2024, but there are still question marks. Coleman is shifting from tackle to guard, and Allegretti, while steady, struggled in pass protection last year. That could be an issue when the Commanders kick things off against the New York Giants, because right across from them is All-Pro defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence II. And if that wasn't enough, he's lined up next to disruptors like Darius Alexander, Roy Robertson-Harris, and Rakeem Nunez-Roche. In other words, Daniels is going to get tested early. Now, the good news is that Washington went out and secured Tunsil, one of the best left tackles in football, and added Connerly, who has already impressed coaches. So while losing Cosmi is a blow, there's confidence that this offensive line can still hold up. The real key will be whether Allegretti and Coleman can solidify the interior until Cosmi makes it back. On the other side of the ball, or rather on the other side of the team's fortune, there's some big news that should make every Commanders fan smile. The front office has officially locked in Terry McLaurin to a brand new extension. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, McLaurin and his agents, Buddy Baker and Tony Bonagura, finalized a 3-year extension worth up to $96 million. Now, that number raised some eyebrows around the league. Why? Because at 30 years old, wide receivers usually start to see their production decline. And if you compare the deal to others signed this offseason, it looks like Washington might have paid a little extra. For example, Denver's Courtland Sutton, who also turns 30 this year, just signed a 4-year, $92 million extension. McLaurin's deal is shorter and richer on a per-year basis. Then there's DK Metcalf, who signed a massive 5-year, $150 million contract after being traded to Pittsburgh. McLaurin's new deal doesn't quite hit those numbers, but it puts him right in that upper tier. So was it worth it? Absolutely. Here's why. McLaurin has been more productive than both Metcalf and Sutton over the course of his career. Since being drafted in the 3rd round back in 2019, he's racked up 6,379 receiving yards. Compare that to Metcalf's 6,324 yards in 6 seasons with Seattle, and Sutton's 6,340 yards in 7 seasons with Denver. McLaurin has done all this despite playing with a carousel of quarterbacks. Now with Jaden Daniels, the production has reached another level. Last season, McLaurin set a career high with 13 touchdown receptions, the second most in the league. Think about that. After years of grinding it out with below-average QB play, he finally has a true franchise quarterback, and the results were immediate. Daniels himself has been vocal about the connection he and McLaurin share. This offseason, he told ESPN's John Keim, "Obviously, me and Terry have a very good relationship. Whenever the time comes and he's back out there on the field, I don't feel we'll miss a beat. That's the kind of chemistry that can carry an offense, and that's exactly why the Commanders decided to spend big. Here's the bottom line, Commanders fans. Washington is building for now and the future at the same time. On one hand, losing Cosmi hurts in the short term. Protecting Daniels has to be the priority, and for at least the start of the season, the offensive line will need to lean on depth pieces and versatility. That Week 1 matchup against the Giants' defensive front will show us immediately just how ready this unit is. On the other hand, the McLaurin extension shows commitment to keeping the core intact. You don't let a player like Terry walk, not after everything he's done for this franchise, not when he's coming off his best season, and not when your young quarterback needs that security blanket. Even if it's a little more money than the front office wanted to spend, it's an investment in Daniels, in stability, and in winning. The first headline is official. The Washington Commanders are parting ways with defensive end Clelin Ferrell. The news dropped Tuesday via Last Man Standing, and it marks the end of Ferrell's one-season run in Washington. Ferrell, the 4th overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft by the then Oakland Raiders, never quite lived up to the expectations tied to that draft slot. Still, here in D.C., he gave the team steady snaps in 2024. Last season, he started 10 of the 14 games he played, posting 26 tackles and a forced fumble along the way. At 28 years old, Ferrell now heads back to free agency. He'll be an unrestricted free agent upon his release, and the Commanders will roll forward with a defensive line group that's already gone through some big changes this offseason. Why did Washington move on? The answer is partly numbers. Remember, NFL teams had to trim their rosters down to the 53-man limit. Every club entered camp with up to 90 players, and now it's decision time. Some moves are tough, some are expected. For Ferrell, his release clears the way for younger depth and fresh talent along the line. Dan Quinn and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. want flexibility, speed, and rotational strength up front. With names like Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Dorrance Armstrong, and rookie contributors stepping into bigger roles, Ferrell became expendable. It's a business decision, but it's also a reminder. The Commanders are fully committed to building a roster that can sustain success, not just for this season, but long-term. Now, that wasn't the only big development tied to Washington's roster shuffle. While Ferrell's release was a cut-and-dry decision, another move could be coming through the trade market. According to The Athletic's Diana Rossini, the Commanders have been exploring trade possibilities for cornerback Noah Igbinoghene. Igbinoghene came to Washington last year, reuniting with Dan Quinn after their time together in Dallas. He signed a one-year deal to return this offseason, and during 2024, he delivered the most productive campaign of his career. Playing mostly at nickel, he recorded 55 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and 7 pass breakups in 17 games, including 10 starts. He even started 2 playoff games during the team's postseason run. By any measure, that's solid production. And in preseason action this year, he flashed again, finishing with 9 tackles and a tackle for loss in just 2 exhibition appearances. So why would the Commanders move on from him? It comes down to depth and competition. Washington's cornerback room is one of the strongest it's been in years. They went out and landed Marshawn Lattimore, a legitimate shutdown corner. They drafted Mike Sanstrell, who has already shown promise as a future defensive anchor. Add in veteran Jonathan Jones and rookie Trey Amos, and suddenly the Commanders have both top-end talent and young depth at corner. That makes Igbinoghene, a former first-round pick himself, an attractive trade chip. Instead of cutting him outright, Washington is seeing if another team might be willing to deal, which would give the Commanders draft capital or depth elsewhere. For context, Igbinoghene was drafted 30th overall in the 2020 NFL Draft by the Miami Dolphins. He spent 3 years in Miami, then was traded to Dallas before ultimately landing here. Across his career, he's appeared in 54 games with 15 starts, 84 tackles, 12 pass deflections, and 1 interception. At only 26 years old, he's still young enough that other teams may view him as a high-upside addition. When you look at both these stories together, Ferrell's release and Igbinoghene's trade rumors, what you see is a Commanders team making calculated roster decisions. This isn't about splashy headlines. It's about shaping a roster that fits Dan Quinn's vision. Cutting Ferrell clears the way for a defensive line rotation centered around guys who can play multiple spots, disrupt with speed, and stay fresh late in games. Shopping Igbinoghene signals that the front office believes strongly in its young secondary. So much so that they're comfortable moving on from a solid veteran performer. And let's not forget, Adam Peters, the Commanders' general manager, has already shown he's not afraid to wheel and deal. If a trade partner emerges for Igbenogany, don't be surprised if Washington flips him for draft capital or a role player who can help elsewhere, perhaps even on the offensive line where Sam Cosmi's injury has left some uncertainty. So here we are, one piece of tough news, one piece of great news, and one central theme. This franchise is serious about winning now. They've got to navigate life without Cosmi for a little while, and that's going to be a real challenge against some tough defensive fronts early in the season. But at the same time, they've locked in one of the best receivers in the game, ensuring that Daniels has his top target by his side for years to come. And that's where I want to hear from you, Commanders Nation. Do you think Washington will be able to manage without Sam Cosmi until he's back? And do you believe the team made the right call paying Terry McLaurin top dollar as he enters his 30s? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading them all. And don't forget, if you love this kind of coverage, hit that like button, subscribe to Commanders HQ, and turn on notifications so you never miss a single update. Commanders fans, the grind continues. The future is bright, the foundation is strong, and with Daniels, McLaurin, and a retooled offensive line, 2025 is shaping up to be another unforgettable year.